Hello, my movie peeps. I just got done watching the latest Transformers movie, and with Transformers Rise of the Beast, we are following a sequel, prequel, kind of reboot of the series. More specifically, set after the events of Bumblebee, we are now in 1994, where the Autobots encounter a different group of Transformers known as the Maximals, informing them of an impending danger coming to Earth. And that's all pretty much said. Without giving any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. The Transformers franchise. This has been a series that's had a lot of ups and probably more downs than a lot of people want to admit. Of course, Transformers has always been a popular and beloved brand to many people. I remember collecting a couple of toys as a kid, seeing some episodes of the animated series as well, but I also just remember my mind being blown that day I was in the movie theater and I saw the first trailer for the 2007 Transformers movie. Head exploded. The way they realistically made a car transform into a robot before my eyes, I'll never forget that moment. But the thing I'll never forget also is how that magical spectacle on screen quickly became so boring. Especially with the last two Michael Bay directed movies, they just didn't have that like spark, energy, or creativity that maybe the earlier films kind of felt like they had. Admittedly, not the most perfect movies, but they still had something that made going to the movies so memorable and fun. So now bringing it all these years later to Transformers Rise of the Beast, it's pretty funny to think of a time where people aren't that hyped for a new Transformers movie. Obviously, Transformer fans are, but the lead up to this movie, I swear I feel like there was little buzz or anticipation for this to come out. My main draw to this was to see how the Maximals were going to be handled, specifically Optimus Primal. And having walked out of the movie, I think there's a lot of fun and enjoyment in here, but I feel like this movie is missing something. I'll get into the things I'm mixed and negative about with this movie, but first let's talk about the good of this. For one, I definitely want to say right off the top, I would put this Transformers movie in the category of good Transformer films, okay? At least in my opinion, the good Transformers movie are the first one, Dark of the Moon, and Bumblebee. Bumblebee being the best one. I'm happy I can now add Rise of the Beast to that list. All the other Transformer films, I just don't get into as much. And I think the things that put this Rise of the Beast movie into the better Transformer movie category for me is one, the handling of the humans in here. You have Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback who play our two main human leads, and it feels like the series is finally now realizing what to do with human characters. It can be so awkward at times putting such real life struggles next to gigantic robots that have like world-saving missions, and then there's this person over here dealing with finishing their homework and falling in love with the girl next door. Anthony Ramos in here is a likable, noble guy. Some of the family aspects they throw in here with this character, although don't work 100% for me, I still feel was a lot better handled than some of the other previous films in terms of human characters. I even liked how this movie handled the relationship between the humans and the robots differently in here, because this is an early days Optimus Prime on Earth. The Autobots don't completely trust the humans. They don't even want to include them in the world-saving missions, and they're kind of iffy on them. And there was even an interesting dilemma in here I wasn't expecting to see with Optimus Prime and Noah. They had a conflicting viewpoint on how to handle the mission at hand, and I was like, oh, we've never really seen that done before. The Maximals in here I thought were some of the best parts of the movie. They were really awesome to see, especially that opening sequence where you get kind of introduced to what they do. Not only do they look fantastic in here, but just the way they're portrayed off screen really makes them feel like warriors and fighters. I enjoyed them so much in the movie, I kind of wish we would have got a little more of them. Because while Optimus Primal and Air Razor get a lot to do in here, Rhinox and Cheater kind of get pushed to the background. With this film being set in the 90s, they take advantage of a 90s soundtrack. Granted, a lot of those songs are like the greatest hits of the 90s, so kind of like the overplayed music of that time, but mixed in with the film, it worked for me. I also think the third act of this movie, where we get this whole giant battle sequence, was so awesome to watch. It was probably the most hyped I was in a Transformers battle in a long time, because like I was mentioning, in those later half Transformer movies, the action scenes just kind of felt like mashed metal CGI on screen without a lot of flavor attached. Here they found a way to make that exciting, fun, and jaw-dropping. A big standout for the movie too that helped it set it apart from a lot of other Transformer films is the villain of the film, Scourge. I was really hesitant and nervous about how they would handle Scourge as a villain in here, but I kid you not, he's probably top 2, top 3 Transformers villains that we've had on screen so far. This robot is extremely menacing. He has a diabolical quality to him where he just steals emblems out of the Transformers he finished killing. I was really worried Scourge would just kind of be under the shadow of Unicron in this film. That I don't really think is a spoiler. They've put it all over the trailers. But as far as henchmen working for the bigger bad guy, this was a really good threat, and it makes you wonder, how bad is Unicron gonna be when they have to fight him? So that's the stuff that kind of like really worked for me and made me go, you know what, this deserves to be in the better half of the Transformer movies. But let me get on some of the things that kind of left me a little mixed. Starting off here with Mirage. Now look, Mirage is gonna be a make or break character for you, and and that's why he's on my mixed side of things, because there were a lot of things about Pete Davidson's Mirage I really liked. I thought he was the funniest character in the movie, had the best jokes of the film, was at times just like super entertaining to watch on screen, but then there were other moments of Mirage where it felt a little much. They gave Mirage such a big personality in this movie, he sometimes just doesn't feel like he fits within his team or even this film. They also definitely give Mirage and Noah in here the sort of Bumblebee and Sam Witwicky relationship where they're the robot and human that go hand in hand with each other, dynamic duo, and I just didn't completely buy that, or at least just not how quickly they got into that relationship. And that'll be such a crucial thing for you going into this film, because Mirage can also be considered the heart of the movie. So while I'll still say I liked Mirage more than I disliked him, I'm not gonna argue or be surprised with anyone who comes out saying, man, Mirage annoyed me in this film. Jumping off that point, I also think there was a lot of emotional moments thrown in here that just felt flat to me. They give Noah this kind of like struggling backstory involved with his little brother that I thought was an interesting thing to throw in there and works as a parallel to the relationship between like Optimus and Bumblebee. And in the third act, they try pulling at your heartstrings, get the waterworks going, and it just wasn't landing for me. There is definitely like one emotional thing that happens to a Maximal in this film that I was like, oh, that is actually kind of sad. I feel really bad for this. Going up to like just the straight up negative side of things, this is still a very formulaic Transformers movie. I felt like you have seen this type of Transformers movie done several times, where the humans and robots are put in a specific situation and journey where they have to retrieve a specific item that is going to be crucial to the destruction of Earth. Like, it's literally happened in the past like 5 and 6 Transformer films. Sure, they toss in some new elements thrown in there, but at the end of the day, it just comes off like we've seen this story done before. So it made the narrative feel a little weak and just kind of going through the numbers. This one's a small nitpick, but still it's going to be a noticeable one for some people. Sometimes the CGI or just cinematography involved with the Transformers in here was lacking. For most of the film, the CGI here looks as standard as all the Transformer films. They look good as robots, the transforming looks nice, and then there's like some really jarring moments where you're like, did they not render this all the way? Why does the screen look very green screeny? And although I'm not someone who necessarily wants Michael Bay directing Transformer movies again, you gotta admit, the man had a style with those films. He added flair, he added this cinematography, this like iconic look that made them feel memorable, at least the earlier Transformer films, not the later ones. Because like with the third act, although those action scenes are pretty hyped and exciting, it's still a gray, flat, colorless backdrop, and you're like, man, Michael Bay wouldn't have done it like that. I felt even Bumblebee had like a specific style and look to it where scenes looked very colorful, vibrant, and had its own fresh take on Transformers. So yeah, with like Transformers Rise of the Beast, this isn't going to be the movie that changes the minds of people who just can't get into the Transformer films or feel like they're flat. But if you're someone who is a fan of the Transformer films and what they've done, this is a better version than a lot of those other movies. I'm still hoping they strive and want to do better, especially with what they're setting up for the continuation of this franchise. Like, I want peak. I don't just want formulaic standard Transformers, okay? So with Transformers Rise of the Beast, I'm gonna give action 3.5 stars. A lot of the best action scenes just come towards the ending of the movie, the way they mix in the soundtrack, the new thing they do with humans and including them into the battle. I was like, yeah, I like what they're doing here. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. Most of the jokes will be coming from Mirage and his humor in here. A lot of it had me laughing, but there was also a lot of moments where the jokes felt flat, a little campy, a little cheesy, and I was like, oh, that could have been better. Story in here, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I wish the story could have been a little stronger, but I'm telling you, as far as story beats and mission goes, this movie has been done 5 times already in the Transformer franchise, but at least there's a couple of new things thrown in there to make it feel slightly different. Horror in the movie, I'll give 1 star too. There is actually a couple of jump scares in this movie, and since there will be some little ones coming out, they might be scared, but it's nothing too horrifying. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. There's maybe like one thing involving a robot that you think might not be coming back, but then again, this franchise has pulled that same card like 3 times already. You know they're most likely not gone. Casual fans into the Transformers franchise, I'm gonna give this a B-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a B-. And critically, I'm going to give it a C-. Judging this in comparison to all the other Transformers movies that have come out, I do think this one is enjoyable and entertaining enough to watch in theaters. Like I said, when the movie comes out, we'll definitely be talking spoilers because that ending little tease is going to have a lot of people buzzing. There is one mid-credit scene. You don't have to wait too long for that to pop up, but it's really going to be the ending of the movie most of us are going to want to talk about. Don't be forgetting to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.